So we will start the webinar now. So hi everybody, I'm Paolo Mariolu. I'm a sales manager here at Value Blue, and I will be talking about why you should incorporate business process management and enterprise architecture, and I will do that together with my colleague Rafael.
Hi everyone, I'm Rafael Bakker and I'm an implementation specialist at Value Blue, which means that I help customers in the initial setup of Blue Dolphin. Moreover, I also specialize in the BPMN module and setting up business process management in your organization.
Thank you, Rafael. So just some practicalities before we start. If you would like to ask questions, and please do, you can do so by clicking on the question mark icon on the right side of the screen. We will also be running 2 polls today. Please make sure that you attend, and also we would like to hear your experiences. Last but not least, after the webinar, we will send you a feedback form, and replay is available for sharing with other peers or colleagues. So today's webinar is all about incorporating business process management into your architecture repository, and the what and the why you should do that. So quick agenda for today. So I will be starting with a quick summarization of why we are here today. Rafael will be talking about the what and why of business process management. I will then take it over and discuss a bit the what and why of enterprise architecture. And then we will look at Blue Dolphin, our platform, and why combining those 2 forces helps you increase your efficiency and faster your time to market. And at the end, I will challenge you with an ROI calculation. So let's start with the first agenda point, the why are we here today? So today, you hopefully will understand the what and the why of enterprise architecture and business process management. After that, we will look at the challenges that architects face and how strong a collaboration between the business, the processes, and the architects can help overcome these challenges. And of course, we will also look through a demo that will be given by Rafael, how Blue Dolphin facilitates this in a more effective way. So Rafael, up to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paolo. First, I'll be talking a little bit about the what and why of business process management. Well, what is business process management? I think most of us already know the, standard definition. I like to say it's a collection of repeatable activities with a standardized input and output. But aside from that standard definition, at Value Blue, we like to use the definition of a translation of your strategic outlook, meaning your goals, mission, and vision, into the operational goals and the activities that contribute to these operational goals. So aside from just increased speed and efficiency or to adhere to risk and control standards, business process management really enables you to translate something vague happening at a high strategic level. So for instance, the impact of a new regulation to something tangible that happens in your business processes in the coming period, to change this in the coming quarter or the coming year. So why do we practice business process management? Well, business process management is all about putting business processes into the context of what the organization wants to accomplish, and to effectively use your resources in a targeted manner to achieve the organization's desired results. This means that we like to relate business processes to our business goals through capabilities, and doing it this way, we have a means to an end instead of describing your business processes as the end goal. Doing it this way, answer the why and achieve real business value instead of only, for instance, improving a little bit of speed, efficiency, or like I just mentioned, to adhere to risk and control standards. And using key performance indicators, we can measure relevant factors such as cost, people, technology, and available knowledge in our business processes, and we can evaluate them based on these goals that were set up. A good example of this would be that now in Corona, a lot of shops are closing since we have the virus in our midst, and shops are needing to add a new capability, meaning that they, for instance, need to implement a web shop because they had the capability of sales, but now that people are, for instance, ordering clothes and food more and more online, perhaps they need to add a new capability of online sales, which is new for them. That the capability is something that an organization can do, meaning that they need, for instance, a web shop and even the supporting infrastructure for that web shop to service maybe a big amount of customers. So it's a really simplistic example, but they need to expand their IT landscape with the goal of surviving the coronavirus. This means that they have to restructure their processes, for instance, the delivery process and the incoming order process, in order to achieve their goals. Meaning that in this example, the goal of surviving and the new capability of online sales is leading to a restructuring of ordering items or ordering items and delivery, selling. Exactly. Thanks, Paolo. So the difference between business process management and business process model and notation, or modeling notation, as some like to call it, is that BPMN is used to implement the practice of BPM. Some advantages of this language include that it's the de facto business process modeling language, meaning that it's very well known and understood by both business and IT users. It supports a uniform way of modeling, which is one way of describing processes, which tends to differ at some organizations. It's an extensive modeling language that supports your maturity level. So you can start with a subset and then grow in maturity. And it's generally accepted as a language for business process automation, meaning that if you are mature enough, you can also use it for automating parts of or the whole of your business processes. This leads us to our first poll. To what extent does your organization use and or already implement business process management? And I will now launch the poll. I'll give you a little bit of time to fill it in as well. We have our first reply. Thanks for that. We are at 63%, so some of you still have to engage. We'll give it a few more seconds. All right, I guess that's it. The results are 67% is telling me some. I think I can share them as well. 27% business process management already fully linked to IT, and I'm guessing those are our Blue Dolphin customers. All right. I think we'll go on with enterprise architecture.
Yeah, thanks, Rafael. So thank you for filling in the poll. So most of you do some business process management and even fewer really linked business process management to their IT. So let's discuss what is enterprise architecture, the what and the why of it. So if you look at enterprise architecture and you look it up in Wikipedia, you see that the value of practicing enterprise or architecture in general is basically that you have a structured way of a successful development and the execution of a strategy. So basically by applying your principles and practices, you guide an organization through the business, information, process, and technology. And that's the first thing. So enterprise architecture is already linked to processes. And I will come back to that later, why you should join those forces. So let's look at some drivers for architecture. So when interviewing our customers, we always find out that you have some external drivers and you have internal drivers. So let's look at the external drivers first. So of course, very important is the changing customer expectations. Like for instance, Raphael already mentioned, you have those retailers with physical stores, but customer nowadays expect that you have an app as well, that you can just order online, especially with the pandemic going on. But also, if you look at the financial services, 10 years ago, I would go physically to a bank to do my banking stuff. Nowadays, everything is run through the app. So that's an external driver right there. But also new market entrants, the new competition. If you look at banks, no longer, if you look at here in the Netherlands, we have ING, of course, but they are not looking per definition at ABN AMRO, but they are looking at PayPal and all those new fintech companies out there with new emerging technologies. That they need to keep them in a loop. Also, you have some internal drivers as well. Need for organizational agility and flexibility, for example, and that directly can relate to the changing customer expectation. Reducing operational costs, and that is always an internal driver. And of course, innovation. You want to add innovation as quick as possible. So those are all typical drivers for architects and for architecture. So how's architecture then generally done? So basically, we have three phases. You have the plan phase, the assess phase, and also the build phase. And what we did at Value Blue, we interviewed a couple of CIOs and architects that are our customers or prospects that we are talking to, and asked them the question, well, if you look at the three spaces as an architect, what is in general the most common challenges that you incorporate? And then we saw, well, a very important one is, well, we spend a lot of time gathering all types of information to have insight in a current state. So having an insight in the current state, how everything is interconnected. And like Raphael mentioned before, you need to know, okay, what type of capabilities do I have as a company? How are my processes supporting those capabilities? And eventually you want to drill it down up to the infrastructure and everything in between, applications and data as well. But also what you want to do, if you have those capabilities and you want to have you're running a big change project or transformation, then you would like to know, you want to relate those projects, those changes, you want to relate it back. How are they supporting my specific goal or a specific capability? Or you want to relate it back to a certain process. How is this project affecting this specific process? So let's look at it from another view. So you have that enterprise architecture, and of course, it all starts out with business goals, defining your business goals, your objectives for the coming year, for the coming 3 years or 5 years. And then you abstract certain capabilities. So as a company, you have certain capabilities. Like Raphael mentioned before, let's look at a retailer. You have like hundreds of physical stores out there. But the world is changing and you need to create a new capability. You need to adapt the capability of online sales. Well, that's fine. Yeah, you can define a high-level roadmap how you will get from a physical store to a more online retailer. But that means that you also need to know what your business processes look like, how they, from a business step perspective, how are they looking? And also you want to know effectively how your applications are being used in those processes, what type of data is flowing through those applications, and how your infrastructure is supporting your application and your business processes. And if you know that current state, as how we call it in architecture, then you can start thinking, okay, then I need to change certain pieces of my processes. I need to adapt new applications or a complete new infrastructure. And when you know that, that's the time when you run projects, and that is a constant movement from getting from your current state to your future state. And that is in a nutshell what enterprise architecture does. And then eventually when you have that adapted your online capability, then that capability becomes your current state. So what I would like to know is, in what way do you already practice architecture? So let's start our second poll. So, do you already use your architecture? Not at all. Do you not do architecture? Or are you only modeling out your applications or only your infrastructure? A very important one is your IT already linked to your processes? Or are you full-fledged running architecture throughout your complete enterprise, from business architecture up to your infrastructure? So I give it one more minute. I see that okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna close the poll right now. Let me share the results with you guys. So 35% are only administrating the applications and infrastructure, and I guess for like application portfolio management reasons. Half of you, the IT is already linked to processes. Curious to find out if they are mapped from a process perspective, from an architecture perspective, of also linked into the process steps. And 12% full-fledged business architecture down to the infrastructure, which is really good. So let's move on. So let's discuss now. Okay, so you've seen the what and the why of business process management. I've explained on a high level what enterprise, the what and why of enterprise architecture. Now let's look at what happens when you combine those two forces. So we already discussed the challenges of architects and the CIOs when it comes down to enterprise architecture and running those big change projects. One of the key things is we don't have accurate insight in the current state, and also the spending of resources. The thing is, when you combine those two, business process management and enterprise architecture, you have a more detailed insight of your current state. You exactly want to know which applications are being used in which process step. So when you look at Blue Dolphin is a SaaS solution that we are building for CXOs and architects. And basically what we do, we help companies with the planning of their transformation. And it all starts out with gathering the right information to get to your current state insight. But we do that within collaboration with each other. So the enterprise architects or the architects in general should cooperate with IT, should cooperate with the business, and should cooperate with the C-level. And also we help you manage those insights based on actual data. So let's look at this picture again. Again, you have the enterprise architecture. It all starts with getting to know your current state and how everything is interconnected with each other. And then slowly moving to your future state by running all these projects, and where everything is related back to either a capability or your business goal. So that is in the basis what Blue Dolphin helps you out with. By combining business process management and enterprise architecture and getting into the nitty-gritty details of your business processes from level 1 to level 4, and knowing which business process steps you are taking in your current state, and knowing which business process steps need to change to get to the future state. And IT is always linked to your business process steps. That will increase your efficiency and speed up your time to market. So what can help? How can Blue Dolphin help? Well, we can help you with defining your current state and slowly getting to your future state as well. But how do we do that? So if you look at Blue Dolphin, we are an online intelligent repository. We were born in the cloud, so we are cloud native, and that repository needs to be filled. It needs to be filled with data. One way of filling the repository, of course, is by starting to manually model out your application infrastructure or your business architecture or your business process steps in BPMN. But there are more easier ways. So we have out-of-the-box connectors for integrating with all that systems that you already use that have already valuable information in itself. Most common, CMDB, financial system, software asset management system, but also Excel and project management systems. Another way is through collaboration. And through collaboration means there's a lot of information in people's heads, and you want to engage with those people in an easy way and make them part of the architecture repository and your business process management repository. When you have all the data in Blue Dolphin, then you need a way to visualize the data. So Blue Dolphin supports to the fullest Archimate. We support to the fullest business process management, and we also support data modeling. And the good thing and the unique thing within Blue Dolphin, all those modeling languages are fully integrated with one each other. But of course, that's good for IT, that's good for the architects, and we have some smart heat mapping capabilities as well. But most commonly, the more C-level people, the business people, would like to look at reporting and dashboarding. So we can create out-of-the-box reports and dashboards for those kind of personas. So what we saw at our customers, by integrating business process management into your architecture repository and not keeping them completely siloed, siloed, we saw an increase in value. So what we saw is that we could eliminate 30% of time spent on project start phasing. We could also, by reporting and dashboarding, we could create unique insights that speed up time to market at our customers. And also, a very important thing, a lot of projects go over budget and over time. By having always the right insight in your business process, your process steps, and your architecture repository, we increase the quality of processes and the project execution. So Rafael is now quickly going to show you how it works within Blue Dolphin, and will demo the solution to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paolo. So what you see here is actually two versions of the truth, as I like to call it. On the left, you see architecture. Specifically, you see a business process, invoicing, which is used by the finance department and the chief financial officer. The invoicing process is mutating the invoice, the business object, as we like to call it. The process is supported by an application, which mutates the data object, and the application is realized by a server, in this case Dolphin, because we like jokes. What we see is that the same process and actors on the left are used in our business process model, in our business process module, which I will be demoing shortly, on the right. So you can see that the blue circle, the invoicing object, and the red circle correspond because they use the same repository. To take it one step further, we can use the application as well, meaning that if we have the application coupled to the invoicing object, the business process, we can use it in our BPMN flows, and the other way around. Meaning that if we start to model BPMN flows and couple applications to certain tasks, in this case on the right, the create invoices task, the application is coupled to the business process object in the architecture. And we can also do this for business objects and data objects, which are then coupled in the architecture as well. I will now show you live in Blue Dolphin how this all relates. First of all, I made what we call a view for you in our architecture module, which is called Business Process Management and Enterprise Architecture, in which I will talk you through 3 steps in order to achieve this value that we're talking about. The first step is to build your business process architecture. A lot of organizations already have some kind of process architecture, but some don't. Why do you want this? Well, first of all, you want a shared vision of your business processes in your organization. Moreover, you need to agree on a level of detail. And in order to map your processes, so your primary, supporting, managing processes. And a good way to do this, if you haven't already, is to start with organizational units. So what kind of activities do they do? What kind of output do they deliver? The second step is to relate your business processes to some kind of capability map. So in other words, what does your organization do? If you want to take it one step further, what do you do now and what do you do in the future? Basically what Paulo just said, in order to reach the goals. And in this way, BPM is part of your transformation roadmap. The third step is then determine where to improve or develop processes to get closer to those goals. If you, for instance, have a new project, which then describes the current state, you could draw the BPMN flow in order to see the current state visualized easily in your business processes. I will now click to the next view. Here you see an example of a business process architecture that I made for you. You see the governing business processes, the primary business processes, and some supportive business processes. I gave them really logical names called business process 1 to 16. But the one I want to work out with you is ordering food, to stay in the example of ordering food or an item at a shop online. Now that in Corona, we have to do it online instead of by phone call, for instance. So what I want to do is from my architecture, what you see here, the architecture module, is I want to make a BPMN flow. Meaning that if I, for instance, now open the object viewer, I can see all the information that is saved on this object. I will talk more on that after I finish the BPMN flow. Under more and then views, I can create a BPMN flow for this specific object in the repository. So I will do that now. And you can see that my interface immediately switches. So what I see here is my swimming pool, as we like to call it in BPMN. So you can see, you can see the pool is called ordering food. Well, to edit this, first I have to click edit mode. And you can see now my BPMN objects on the left have become visible. Well, it's best practice to first give it a name. So let's say it's called ordering food BPMN. You can see that I already practiced this beforehand. Now I need to couple some actors. It also tells me create a new swimming lane. So I already added these actors to the repository. If you haven't, you can also give those rights out to the modelers. But for now, I already imported a restaurant employee. So that's my business actor, the one who will be doing something in the process. And also a cook, because someone needs to cook the meal. So now I'm ready to model out the process. Well, every process starts with a start event. And from this start event, I can describe tasks. So tasks are something that someone does within the process. So first one would be, for instance, receive order. So an order comes in. What I would like to model here is the business object order. So I drag the business object, it's called data object, business object onto my canvas. And I say, this is input for my receive order. So what I can do now is I can look in the repository and I can bind it to an existing Archimate business object. So let's do that now. Hey, I already found my food order. All right, that's great. Well, the next step would, for instance, be process order. And in this this task, let's just name it. That's process order. I want to use my new web shop that I bought in order to handle all those incoming orders. So let's couple this to my web shop. You can see here that's an application component or a piece of software. And from the web shop, the food order is written away in some sort of data store database. So here you can see the input and then the output, and let's couple this as well. This is also called food order. The next step would be for the cook to start preparing the order. Sorry, this mouse is very sensitive. I will place my task here. So from one swim lane, we now go to another swim lane. Let me just tighten this up a little bit. I think I'll use the arrows. Yeah, just like that. And what does a cook do? He prepares the order. And for the sake of time, I want to leave it at this, but you can imagine that the order is dispatched. Maybe it goes to Uber Eats and is then delivered at the door. So let's end it over here. So I just modeled my business process, in this case, ordering food. And I coupled two actors, the restaurant employee and the cook, the business object, the actual order, and the food order object, which we then use, for instance, in our data module to model data sets to one another. What I'll do now is I will make this process official. So I select the swimming pool, the whole process. I again go to more and then views. And what I can do here is I can make this process set as official BPMN module, which means that I have to enter a name, ordering food, and this way it will be called in our process publication portal. So let's do that now. So it tells me there's an official version of this process. It's called ordering food. So I will now go to the official processes. And this is a different interface to Blue Dolphin than the one you just saw. This one is meant to display the official version of processes to your organization. What I can do here is I can search for the process, but what I want to show you is that now that I coupled all of these objects to the process itself, I can say, okay, let me see all the processes that are relevant for a cook. And because I coupled my business actor cook to the process, I can look, okay, so it starts with an order coming in. Okay, and I'm the cook, so here I have to prepare the order after it's been processed. So the same goes for the employee. You can also look from his or her perspective. From the application, so if I click here on web shop, I can see the same process. And also from an information perspective, which is the business process, the business object. So that's my food order. And lastly, also from a data perspective. So because we coupled these objects in the repository, we can look at them from different perspectives because of all these objects have now got relations in the repository, which we will look at now. So I will go back to Blue Dolphin and let me just open my view again, because this is the starting page. Here we go. So what I just did is, because I made the process official, I drew the relationships between those objects in the repository. So what we have here is our conditional layout, which means that I can display the different relations between objects and also the properties I recorded on some of these objects. So first of all, what is the business process used by? Who is it used by? So if I open the agenda here, I can see, so ordering food is used by a cook and a restaurant employee. But imagine if I filled in all these processes, I could easily look, okay, if this something is happening with the cook or the restaurant employee, what processes is he or her using? The same goes for an application. So here I want to show you the beauty of our coloring options. So I added some demo applications as well. What you see here is that ordering food, let me just turn all of these off, and also the business processes. I can see that web shop, so that's used in the process ordering food. So imagine if my application goes down or there's something that I need to relate it to, I can quickly look here. Okay, so those are the processes which some applications are coupled. What business object is used? Well, food order. It's basically the same trick that we did for the application. Some other thing I want to show you is that we can also record attributes on business processes. So let's say I want to know the functional value. So right now I described it as high, middle, or low, and I can show that to you using our object viewer. Here I have the questionnaire that Paulo talked about, that we can fill in from, that we can export and then people can fill in without even having to resort to Blue Dolphin. I can see here the description. So restaurant would like to receive orders during Corona. Maybe you want to record a process owner. What's the functional value? Just something I configured myself. And for instance, what's the business risk? Or you can see that all of these processes have no value, but that ordering food has a high functional value. Probably it's very important for the restaurant. And business risk, well, it's a middle risk. It's not very high demanding process. Well, that's what I wanted to show you. If I succeed, I'll go back to the presentation now.
Yeah. So we discussed on what is business process management, what is architecture, what we see at our customer sites when we interact with them, what the added value is of combining those two forces. What we also always do is create a business case and an ROI calculation for our customers. So I would like to challenge you, if you're interested, before you interact further with us, we could create an ROI calculation for you. If you are interested in that, please send me an email, contact me, send me a text message, whatsoever, and I will be happy to do that for you. Also, last but not least, is the fact that we are running other webinars, of course. So please do check our website for the upcoming webinars. And now I will ask you if there are any questions. If so, please feel free to ask.
Of course, you can also send them to us by email. Let's just give it a few seconds if there are any questions at this point.
So we received a question, a good one. How do you manage the combination of business process management and enterprise architecture in a large organization? Rafael, can you maybe explain?
Yeah, well, larger organizations, I guess, always propose a challenge. I think the first step would be your business process architecture. I don't know if you have any kind of business function or capability mapping, but we think the main challenge here is to really have a uniform way of looking at business processes, and also using the same language, for instance, BPM, and using, for instance, a tool like Blue Dolphin, because if you use different tools, you will not have the consistency to really achieve the business value that we talked about, I think.
Okay, thank you, Rafael. Let's wait if we get even more questions.
This is open.
Okay, everybody, thank you. So any questions that you might have, please send them over to me. And thank you for your attention so far. And we will be sending an evaluation form as well. Thank you for attention so far, and have a pleasant day or night.
Thanks a lot, everyone.